What's going on, guys? It's your boy EFN here, coming to you live from Broken Boxes TCG. We're actually doing our first deck profile over this weekend. I had an OTS championship out at Alternate Universes out in Holmes, PA. I ended up taking top four with goodstuff.deck. So it was a 6-round tournament. There was roughly 60 players. I think it was 58 to be exact at that point. It was a really uphill battle. Only one loss in the prelims. Then we went into top 8. I ended up losing out top 4, as I said, against the winner of the tournament, Chaco. He was piloting Dragon Link. Of all decks, the deck is still live this format and is moved on to some quite crazy shenanigans. I faced off against 2 DD decks. I faced off 2 Prank Kids. One Prank Kid actually not running the Brave engine itself. And the only loss in the main event was to Heroes of all decks. So the deck can still do some really obnoxious stuff. So we're going to cut from here and actually go to the deck profile at this point. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright guys, so to start off the deck profile, we're going to start off with 3 Water Enchantress, your primary searcher for your core engine to the deck. Gets you your Aramis, gets you through your Faithful, and gets you other engine parts. Non-typical ratio for that engine. I am running 2 Griffin. I have seen some decks run this. I actually think it's really good for goodstuff.deck just because of the fact that it's an extra body free from hand when you control nothing. So if you do hard open Adventure or Aramis and no way to get into Enchantress, at least then having the Griffin Rider gets you the Enchantress for the added body on board. But in addition, there was actually times that it came up where I would actually special this back from the grave using already negated floor to get the body back. So having to go through the additional search or having it available to you has came up quite crucially in some of the matchups. And then onto the TenYear package, we have our 3 Ashunas, our 3 Vishudas, and I cut down the Adharas to 2. I find the Adhara recycling is not as necessary. I end up cycling and siding out one of the Vishudas a lot of the times. So the Adhara can always come up for that, but actually just having the extra tuner out of this, not so necessary due to the next engine that is coming up on the list here, which would be the Red Rose engine. And this is your standard ratio of 3 Red Rose, 1 Rux Rose. One gets the other body on board. A lot of times I found that this actually came up in certain crucial points and made me change some of the extra deck ratios. And we will run on to one of the next Spice engines. Free body on board and free card draw. So we'll explain one of the ratios later through why we did this. This just adding free value off of having the bodies if you need an extra body towards your Hulk play, or you need to get the extra search off of a Dead Adventure or something, that ability. Absolutely valid. And we go into our hand trap lineup. We have our 2 Ghost Bell of Haunted Mansion, 2 Ash Blossoms, and 3 Ghost Ogres. The ratios are pretty static. We didn't need to overdraw on hand traps. Mind you, the deck is 44, so we didn't want to see too much in opening hand. Granted, a lot of these are used for our functionality if necessary to go into our Synchro plays or Hulk play. And it happens many times where you open multiple hand traps or just the one hand trap, and you have to run that route. Perfectly fine ratio. I would not change that or add anything. And then to our 1 of monsters, we have 1 of Taye and 1 of Despot. I chose not to go with the Moye because I find having the added worm in hand does not occur as often as I would like it to. So if I open the Taye, I'm perfectly fine with special summoning any one of the TenYears off the board just for added ability or recursion during the turn. And Taye from hand, most of the time, just having that normal summon, I would already have something like the Red Rose on field, or I'll just save it for a follow-up turn. Now onto our spells. To continue with the consistency for the build, I ran 3 Vessel of Dragon Cycle. The card absolutely comes up, because with cards like Aramesir, having the non-effect monster on board is never a question. You get to the Aramesir so easily in this deck, especially with the ratio, this deck size being 44. Getting to the Aramesir is not a problem. This, you don't have to wait for the monk to come out, or any of the tokens off of, let's say, why can't I remember its name right now? The Mecha Phantom Beast Link, or Auradon. I couldn't remember there for a second, guys. So next we go into 3 E-Tellies. Obviously, consistency card gets you the body, gets you the Ghost Ogre on board if you need to give that one random pop interruption, or just to make your Hulk play, your Synchro 10 plays. Then we go on to the rest of the Brave Engine. We have 3 Rite of Aramesir. We bumped the ratio for Faithful Adventure to 2. Again, the reason I stated earlier with the Magician Souls, the Dead Faithful Adventure, it's perfectly fine to send this for the card draw. I will actually sometimes send the Draco back as well, regardless of if it's going to re-equip itself to the token at that point, just for that added 2 draw due to the number of hand traps or whatever I'm siding, just to see it at that point. And then the last one of Spell, the Vassal Shoot for the Rocks Rose Search, just to get more extension off of your Synchro plays. And the last card in the 44 card build, we have the one of Blackout. Card I'm questioning cutting. It's good for the banish off of the Chi-Jiao. You get the additional tuner off the board. There has been times it came up for the pop, but it's still an in the air card at this point. Now on to the extra deck. Again, we did some ratio checks on this, and we came up with some questionable motives, but we definitely got there. So questionable number 1, Monk of TenYear at 1. I do not find coming up to this card more than once needed because of the Brave Engine. You have so many non-effect monsters you end up making just off of the Aramesir, or when the token gets synchroed out or gets removed, you just end up getting to another Aramesir. So 1 Monk of TenYear is fine. Next we have our best boy Halqifibrax. You already know the combos with him. His follow-up combo, you have the Auradon. And another one that it's hit and miss. It comes up many times because of Halqifibrax. After you end up synchroing off of the Red Rose to get something like Baron, or one of the cards I'm going to show you soon, you Vassal Shoot the second Rose back. So because you already have the Rocks Rose and the Hulk, and then you're already added Interruption, you make the Apollosa off the 2 Rose cards and the Hulk, and it puts a lot of hurt through for players. It didn't actually come up this event, but then at my locals today, it came up several times. So I don't think this is something I would cut. I would think most people should try teching the one of. It's really clutch in certain scenarios, and it just puts a lot of problems on the board for opponents. Alright, so now we'll move on to the Synchro package. We started off with our first Herald of Arclight, free way to search out souls, guaranteed 1 interruption, and against a lot of decks they struggle with the not being able to send from hand. So with a lot of these boards, droplets is pretty much the only interruption available to what you currently have. If you have Baron and some of the other cards, like the card I'm going to show you next, this stopping droplets is just infinitely powerful, this format. Next Spice card, Naturia Beast. I can't tell you how many times I went into this card just off of the Brave token. A lot of people forget that the Brave token is a level 4 Earth monster. So being able to special summon a Shuna off of the, or Adhara off of the hand, or to go into your Hulk plays and be forced to use the desk bot because you already have enough interruption on board that it's not optimal, and you want to go into your shooting riser during your opponent's turn to continue plays to get your floor or what have you. Naturia Beast hurts so much going on right now. Just the amount of interruption and the free 2 mil off of it, being able to put your TenYears or your Enchantresses in graveyard from the top of your deck and just stopping your opponent from playing has come up so many crucial times during that event. So the next card, Shooting Riser, obviously free dump card. Level modulation, get you the synchro you want during your opponent's turn. It's clutch. It gets you your Enchantress to graveyard for follow-up plays. Very good. Typical, the one Yazi and the one Boxia. Boxia Bounce, best removal in the game for this deck, I would say. One of the best removals. Clearing back row under very tight constrictions is very important, so I absolutely really enjoy the use of this card. We also follow up with more interruptions / destruction. We have Draco Berserker. He came up a few times where his push for damage was just exactly the momentary need. We also have the Grandmaster Chijiao. Chijiao for the banish effect to get the added token on board, or to create the added interruption by gaining the search for Blackout and just to set it so you have that additional pop too. Another card people weren't running, but I definitely suggest, especially with the Hulk Yazi combo, is Borreload Savage. Savage came up adding, well, obviously enough interruptions, but it gave me enough power to beat over negation-based, or sorry, an activated negate Dragoons, just because of the 40-50 attack he got off of going and getting Auroradon as an equip at that point. So it did come up, but just Borreload alone by itself is just an amazing card. Next we follow up with Sinister Sovereign Qijing Longyuan. This card won me 2 matches. So I would be able to clear board through multiple interruptions, and I would push for enough where they're near lethal and they're under that 1200 threshold, and you just punish your opponent for playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Literally, you just tell them, you are not playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. And it was against a Shadal Invoked player, where I had spun his back row, and one of them being the El Shadal fusion. He was just blinding it there. So he draws it into his turn, and he forgets that this burns for 12, and he's down to 1100 life points. I hit him for 69 that turn. Nice. And he just activates the El Shadal fusion from hand, and I chain, and he just scoops at that point. Last 2, we have the Cheng Ying, obviously a good card to beat over, easy spot removal for the banish effect, protection under when you black out them, so good added removal effect for that. And then the last card, the best interruption currently, Barone. This card has brought me back numerous times my already removed or beat over copy of Griffin during standby phase, mostly my standby phase that I would end up hitting into that, which there's not, at that point, a lot of people just have no follow-up I've seen from my matches. All right, and then we can go into the side deck choices now. So for this weekend, Token Collector, one of just a free dump off of your Shooting Riser. It's just a good card against your opponent's plays when they're playing Brave Engine. Not many Sword Soul players were there, so obviously the one of was fine. 3 Lancia needs no explanation. We had quite the few what was it? Flunderies decks there. There was a couple other decks I can't think of right now, but the card was sided in minimally. I only saw one deck that was even warranted siding them in against, which was in top 8. It was I can't remember if he was playing the Cyburst package, but it was Eldritch, and I don't think he played the Cyburst package. I sided in against him. I didn't see it. I didn't need it, but it's just a good card for side right now. Droll, we're seeing a lot of prank kids resurface again. Droll definitely has its versatility. There's quite a few matchups that it's good against, so mandatory for me at that point. The one Harpy's Feather Duster, And instead of Cyclone or Lightning Storm, I went with the Twin Twisters. So again, dealing with Eldritch and their heavy back row, if they're going for DPE for some reason, I don't know. But yeah, I'm not worried about it. I'm more worried about our skill drain interruptions or their strikes at that point. So I'd rather have the Twin Twisters available to me than the Cosmics. The Cosmics are good for the one spot removal dealing with Scythe. Scythe is a bit of a pain to deal with, but dealing with the Brave Engine, you can kind of work your way through a turn if necessary, or at least do some of your sorts, your TenYear functions, just to put up some sort of interruption and some sort of barrier to get you to the next turn to continue your plays under Scythe. So for trap lineup, we ran 3 anti-spell. Again, spell negate or spell hate. There's a lot of good cards. I actually had one opponent forget that it's until their next turn that they'd be able to activate this. It was the Prank Kid player I played, and we tied in round 6 due to time constraints. So this card, absolutely good. Plenty of good reasons to run it. Dealing with heroes being back, a little bit of Drytron coming back to the meta. The Mirror, anything Brave Engine card is absolutely worth running for if you're going first. And then the one of Red Reboot. Red Reboot, again, you have your Eldritch matchups. It's easy free win as long as they don't have the Solemn Judgment, of course, which happened today and cost me a match against them. But it is what it is. It's also good for, well, any base trap interruption, torrentials, or the such. So that is it for the deck profile, guys. I appreciate your time coming to check us out. Again, if you haven't already, like and subscribe to Broken Boxes TCG. We'll be updating you more with more profiles as we come along. And next week, we will be coming along with a new box break profile for Hidden Arsenal Season 1. All right, thank you, everybody. And as always, may your boxes be broken. Good night.